The January 6th committee has finally taken its biggest shot by far. In its most dramatic and aggressive move yet, the committee issued a subpoena to none other than former President Trump himself. They're calling on him to testify and turn over documents. In a strongly worded letter to Mr. Trump, the committee writes, quote, "You were at the center of the first and only effort by any U.S. president to overturn an election and obstruct the peaceful transition of power, ultimately culminating in a bloody attack on our own Capitol and on the Congress itself." The January 6th committee lays out a series of allegations against the former president. They include purposely and maliciously spreading false election fraud claims, attempting to corrupt the Justice Department, illegally pressuring state officials to change election results in their states, summoning a mob to Washington, and then refusing to disband the rioters. The subpoena requires Mr. Trump to hand over documents to the committee by November 4th, exactly 2 weeks from now, and then appear for a deposition on or around November 14th, not long after the midterm elections. Now, the committee wrote that it wants to question him about conversations he had with more than a dozen people, including Rudy Giuliani, Roger Stone, Michael Flynn, just to name a few. A lawyer representing the former president called the subpoena unprecedented and said they'll respond after reviewing it thoroughly, likely setting up a monumental court battle. So what happens if former President Trump refuses to comply? Well, today, his longtime ally, Steve Bannon, found out the hard way what the consequences could be. A judge sentenced him to 4 months in prison for defying the January 6th committee's subpoena, and Bannon remained defiant after the sentencing.
The Department of Justice, Merrick Garland, will end up being the first Attorney General that's brought up on charges of impeachment, and he will be removed from office. Thank you very much.
Bannon will stay out of prison while he appeals his case. Let's bring in Josh Gerstein, senior legal affairs reporter for Politico. He was inside the courtroom for Bannon's sentencing today, an unrepentant Bannon. Josh, thanks. How did the judge explain his ruling today, particularly that decision to delay the sentence while the appeal plays out, and that could take a while?
Yeah, you're right, Tyler. I mean, in a sense, that issue of delaying the sentence is a much bigger deal than exactly how long Steve Bannon might have to spend in jail. The judge, Carl Nichols, who is a Trump appointee, said that he thinks Bannon has some decent issues on appeal. There was an issue at the trial of whether he'd be able to argue that his lawyers advised him that he didn't need to comply with the subpoena because of executive privilege issues that have been raised by former President Trump. And the judge didn't let him present that defense in front of the jury, but he acknowledged that, that might be the wrong call. So this is going to have to go up to the D.C. Circuit to be resolved. And that could take 6 months or a year or longer, Tyler. It's even possible if it went to the Supreme Court, it might stretch into the next presidential term.
You kind of hinted at this. Bannon's lawyers sound pretty sure that they're going to win on appeal, and they keep calling their case bulletproof. Is the Justice Department, or do we know, concerned about this at all?
Well, I don't think they're particularly concerned about it. I think bulletproof may be a little bit of chutzpah on the part of the attorneys. But look, the judge who handled this case said that he thought Bannon's arguments were strong, but simply there's an old legal precedent that's on the books right now that precludes him from making these arguments that he relied on his lawyers. It is an offense that it says in the statute books you have to commit it willfully. That means that you really knew that you were committing a crime or at least doing something wrong when you did it. And Bannon, despite his bluster, is insisting that that was not his approach here, that he did want to comply with the subpoena, but he was awaiting instructions from his lawyer and former President Trump. And he says the committee could have taken him to court civilly in a civil suit, but it elected not to go that route.
So let's move from Mr. Bannon to Mr. Trump. Suppose the former president defies the subpoena and that Congress then votes to refer him to the Justice Department for contempt charges. Does the Justice Department have the appetite to really take that one on?
I think that's going to be more tricky here, Tyler. I mean, for one thing, remember, Bannon was out of office. He was in the White House as a White House advisor until August of 2017. So he'd been out of the White House in terms of as a staff member for more than 3 years by the time January 6th rolled around. And of course, President Trump was president on January 6th. So it strikes me that this is not the kind of case that the Justice Department would be terribly interested in bringing. They obviously have other irons in the fire in terms of the Mar-a-Lago documents issue, as well as other aspects of January 6th. And I don't think a contempt of Congress case is the kind of one that the Justice Department would want to take up if that's indeed their decision to go forward with some kind of prosecution of the former president.
All right, Josh, thank you very much. Josh Gerstein, we appreciate your time tonight.